Hi, welcome back. Right, this video is about guns and bullets and stuff and all that cool things. Now, I don't want to start preaching to the converted because I'm sure anybody that's interested in Spitfires knows all about guns and what sort of guns are in them, but I'm kind of building this. I kind of grew up as a child. I was born quite late in life. My parents had me when they were 40 years old. I'm 59 now. So my father was in the Fleet Air Arm. Very late on, just as the war was ending, he was drafted. So his father was killed in the Second World War. So it was later before he got drafted. Just he had to look after his mother. Now, he spent most of his time in the Fleet Air Arm as an armourer, and he spent his life was dealing with these things, cannon shells and Spitfires and Seafires and stuff. He also worked on swordfish and barracudas, I think they were, but they didn't have this sort of cannon in there. But he spent many hours telling me all about his time in the Fleet Air Arm, and I loved it as a kid. You know, it was like I grew up listening about it, everything to do with the Second World War. My dad was obsessed with anything to do with Navy. His father was in the Navy, so it's kind of part of my common part of my life, if you like, is all this sort of stuff. So what I want to do is I want to replace the kit version of the representation of the cannon shells in this wing. Not because they're bad. I mean, I don't think they're very good. They're all right, but they never look right to me. Though, plastic bullet representations of cannon shells. So what I want to do, this is the other side for the wing. What I'm wanting to do is replace these with individual cannon shells or representations of them. I wasn't sure if I could do it because they're really tiny. I mean, when you look at them with the naked eye, they look really insanely small. If you photograph them and enlarge the picture, it looks alright. I just thought I'm doing it as a challenge, not because it has to be done. It's just something. Every time I see one of these little cannon shells, it reminds me of my dad. This is not a Hispano round, by the way. It's probably very similar, but it's not a Hispano round. It's a different shape. I don't know what this is. I got it from somewhere, I can't remember. But it's a similar scale to the ones I'm trying to make. So I've measured it all up and stuff, and I'm making the materials of these things here. So it's just different thicknesses of brass tubing. So the brass tubing, I've measured it all up, and then the core for the bullet is a different diameter. I've explained that on the next part of the video. So that's what we're going to make. It's bonkers, I know, because they're so small. I'll give it a go. But the finished result is this. I have actually finished it, and these are the cannon shells I made. There we go. I think there's 25 there. I made more of them while I was doing it, but I had some casualties because you kept losing them off. Some of them weren't quite right and stuff. Now, one thing I'm going to put some pictures up of different cannon shells now. And you'll notice that they've got different coloured bands on. And the British aircraft had different coloured bands to the American ones, etc. So basically, some are HE and some are armour piercing, some are semi-armour piercing, some are incendiaries and some are ball rounds. I'd love to do that, but I can't paint them. I can't get the paint to... They're so small that I can't paint or even spray the tips because the paint film is so thick, they just don't look right, and you certainly can't mask them. So what I've done, I've just done them as ball rounds, which are all black. And to be fair, my dad used to bang on about these things. He says, oh, cannon shells, they're old services, they're all just like solid steel, blah blah blah. He had no idea when he was in the Fleet Air Arm that they did high explosives or anything else, because all he ever did was put test rounds through them all day long. So all I ever saw was black ball rounds, and he says he threw away thousands of them into the field where they had the test butts and stuff. But yeah, so that's how I'm going to have to do it, I'm afraid. They're just going to have to be all black, and it's starting to wear off. This is just a Sharpie that I've been painting them with, because I can't use a brush, it's too small. So there we go, footage to follow. And that's how I've done the cannon shells on the Spitfire. So I'm using this as a pattern for the shape, or for the length of the ammunition that we're going to put in this. So I've measured this part, and I've measured this part, and then I've measured the complete length. Now the plan with this tubing is the cartridges is this diameter, and this brass tubing goes inside it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a brass part that long, which is, I've measured it to, when you can calculate it down, it's basically 4.5 millimeters long, and then the actual cannon shell part of it, which is this part here, is 3 millimeters long. I'm going to accommodate this. I can't put that step in, it's so tiny. I might be able to machine it in a little bit just to make it look like it's tapered. So this bit is going to be that long, which accommodates part of the bullet as well, and then that bit's going to go right down it. So this long brass piece is going to go right down the length of the whole thing, so it's going to be like that, and then that's the casing. So the brass insert, which is the cannon shell bit, is going to be the full length of the whole thing. So I worked it out. To do this, I need a jig, if you like. So obviously they need to be they all need to be uniform and all the same length, because they'll just look eagle-to-peely and they won't look very accurate. So I need to make a little jig so I can cut each piece all the same length, give or take a few tiny microns or what have you. So what I'm going to do is use plastic card. And this plastic card is just a standard styrene plastic card, and I've measured this stuff, and this stuff is 0.69 millimeters thick. So to make that piece, which is 4.5 millimeters, if you divide 4.5 by 0.69, you get 6.52. So instead I need 6.52 pieces of this stuck together. So I've cut it out and I've scribed it, so you just break off these little pieces. So we end up multiple pieces, and I worked out I roughly need 7 of these. It won't be 7 because when you glue them together you'll tend to get a bit of a glue gap and it'll be a little bit wider. So I'll just keep sticking them together, bear with me. So that's for those, and then for the full length piece that goes down here, I worked it out, I need 11. So we've got enough here to make that. I've just basically cut them. The shape and size of these is irrelevant, it's how thick they are that matters. So I'm just going to break these off here. So we end up with loads of little blank pieces. I don't know how else to do this with. Obviously if you had a machine shop and you could manufacture things properly, it'd be a lot easier. But I'm not doing that, I'm just dealing with bits of plastic, aren't we, really? So I'm improvising, if you like. So the idea is you glue these together to create the depth of the piece that you want to make, and then we drill a hole down the middle of it to accommodate this piece of metal to go down it. So, and then you cut the piece of metal off roughly to the length, if you like, so it sticks out slightly, and then you just file the end off and then just push it out, and then voila, you've got a blank. So I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So I'm not going to do it all on camera because it's a bit lengthy process, but basically I need to start gluing these together. I could use Sino actually, or I could use extra thin. I'm probably going to use extra thin because it'll just be so a goodly amount of that stuff on there. So I'll keep making up a sandwich like that. Now obviously, as I said, when you measure these up, I'll just switch that on. Well, that's 0.73. It does vary a little bit depending on, it's not totally accurate. It was 0.69 last time I did it. Doesn't matter. So when I measure them up, I'm just going to keep sticking them together. So that's now 1.5. Bear in mind in this particular case I want 6.52. So again, as long as they're all the same length, give or take a millimetre or two, it doesn't really matter. Nobody's going to know. Right, okay, I've had the 2 blocks, so we've now got 4.5, 1.75, give or take. I can show you what they are on camera if you want. That one, give or take, is 4.51, which is not bad. And that one is 7.61. Talking point, it's tiny. So all I did to do that was I glued them together. I put them on the grinder in the garage, and I just took the edges off the sides so they were a bit more uniform. And then a couple of different grades of sandpaper. I think that's 320, is it? And then some 1200 grit. And I just basically just rotated it on there a few times just until we got the actual thickness reasonably accurate. I'm perfectly happy with that. They don't have to be accurate, give or take a millimetre, half a mil. They'll be alright, half a mil I think. So they're the two blocks. So what we need to do next, I need to drill a hole through the middle of them to accommodate the material we're going to use. So we've got one piece that's a millimetre thick, and then we've got the brass rod, which is 0.8. So I've got two drill bits that will do that. So this is a 0.8. So that's for the brass rod part of it, which is the thicker of the two pieces. So I'm going to try and drill a hole through that now. As best I can. I don't have a pillar drill, so I'm going to have to just kind of eyeball it. It should be okay. Just going to lift it off the bench now. I'm trying not to drill a hole through my finger. And there we are, I'm hoping it's reasonably straight. It probably won't go through yet, I'll have to mess with it a bit. The problem with this is it gets kind of warm when it's cutting, so the plastic it goes a bit soft, so it kind of closes up on itself a bit like a self-sealing fuel tank, I suppose. So I have to kind of tickle it. You see it's melted to the drill bit because it's so thick. So I'll have to keep doing this until I'll have to let it cool a bit and then drill a bit, cool a bit, drill a bit. Yeah, it's not dragging now, that's better. So that's for the brass rod. I don't want it to be too tight because it'll just make the process more difficult to do. It'll certainly make them difficult to get out when I cut them. So I'm going to mess around with that until it fits and I'll come back to you. Okay, right, I've drilled out both of the little jig pieces. So we've got the big piece. Well, the big piece is the 0.8mm rod. That now fits, honestly. Every time you cut a piece off you have to kind of where's it go? All fine stuff. You have to tickle the ends of it because it obviously puts a burr on the edge. So you have to just sand the ends off. Like that. So it's not got an edge on it now. So that goes through there. Like so. Yeah, so that bit fits through there. And the brass rod, the brass dowling, so I say tubing, now fits through there. Okay, so I could use it like that. I could just cut the pieces off, sit it flush on there, then file the tops off. But when I file things, I like to better pick it up and hold it and stuff. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to put a piece on there now. I'll explain why in a minute. I'm sure you've worked it out already. So if I put that in there, and the same with this one. I can now put the materials into here, and then when it hits a stop I can handle it and not hold it and stuff, and then when you're filing it you're pushing against that backstop instead of having to put it on a flat base. So I'm just going to let that dry, and then I'll show you how I would then make each one. I'm just going to put a bit more glue in there. Right, okay, I've got the caps glued on the ends, and the rods and the doweling, or the tubing and the doweling fit into the appropriate places. So the next job is to cut them to basic length. So when we do this, that goes in there like that. I get a marker pen, just put a mark on there, which is obviously longer than it should be, which is what I want it to be at the moment. And then put that, and I'll zoom you in a little bit. This is brass rod, so it's quite strong, but there's a bit of a decent groove in it. It should cut, or at least it'll break off if I get a deep enough cut in it. That should be enough. There we go, that's now broken off. So to get that to fit back in the little jig, I need to sand the little burrs off. Like so. And then that should fit back in there. In fact, I'm going to put it in the other way around because I know it's rounded off at that side. That fits in there, but it's sticking out a little bit high, as you can see, which is what we want. So what I'll do now is file the top of it. Until you stop hearing the file cutting metal. All it does with the plastic, it just rubs over the top, so you can't get any purchase on it really. Eventually it would destroy this surface, and it would get, I suppose it would become a little bit shorter, but I'm not going to make enough to warrant doing it. So that's very flush with the top of that surface. Now getting that out again, you just get a blade in there and just pick it out. So there we are, that's the complete length of the cannon shell and the casing, which obviously don't. I just need to get the burrs off it again. Hi, welcome back. Okay, so I basically managed to build 28 of these. These are the blanks. I'll just see if I can get a bit closer. There we go. So it's just a blank. It's got like the cartridge at one end and the cannon shell at the other. So that's what I've got. 28 of those. It took me 2 hours to make those. And when you put them in this tool I'm going to show you next, this is the end result. I've just turned down the end a little bit, so you've got like a cannon shell shape at one end, and then you've got a slight taper on the other where the cartridge meets it. So it's alright, it worked quite well, and I've measured this up actually. Trying to get the ping off. It comes out at, there you go, 0.8, which is 20mm, and the cartridge is 1. So that's pretty much a scale cannon shell. So I need to make 28 more of these, or whatever I think is appropriate. So I'm going to show you how I do it anyway. I have to paint the end of it as well, which is even more crazy. So this is just a very, very simple, cheap Chinese lady thing off eBay. It costs 30 quid, so it's not a lot of money. It's quite limited in what you can do with it, but it's alright for this sort of thing. So I'll just show you the basic idea. The chuck does actually turn down quite small, so it can accommodate 0.8mm. Okay, it certainly fits the brass end, which is 1mm. So try and get it to stick out as much as I can. Very fine sandpaper. And there we go. So that's basically the same length as that one now. So we now have 2. Crazy. Right, so I'll give them. I usually spin it round as well and polish the other cartridge end up. So what I need to do is the other 26 of these. So when I've done that, I shall come back to you. Hi, this is just an experiment because it needs, before I even consider trying to paint the tips of these, well, I need to make a belt, because obviously the individual cannon shells are okay, but they need to be on a belt. So I've worked out, well, I'm thinking of using this tubing. Trying to focus. It's just rubber tubing, probably got it from a car kit or something, which is a very, very good fit over the outer brass tube that I'm using. Now obviously if you cut each individual piece like this, if you just cut one piece and get to focus, yeah, that's a link, if you like. Gluing those together is near impossible to get them straight in a uniform line, and cutting them all the same length. So what I'm planning on doing, I've got the brass rod that I was using for the inner core. They've got loads of this stuff. So what I'm thinking of doing is cutting loads of longer lengths like this, and then creating these. So they're on the brass tube because they fit on there really nicely, and it keeps the tubing all straight and uniform. So if I make 26 of these, because I need 26 links, I can then potentially glue them together a lot more accurately, and then when it's glued up and dry, I can then cut a strip out the middle to create a chain. Okay, I'm back. That worked quite well. I'm really impressed or happy with the result of gluing these little tubes together. This is the end result of what I was doing. I'm going to throw up some pictures now of the little stages involved in doing this. Basically you cut the strip out, and I've got quite a few spare ones now. I've got a few spare belts now. There's not much else I can show on this video now because it's so tiny working on this stuff. This is the end result. Try and show a picture of it. Paint scratched off. That's the end result basically of 2 days making these things on and off. I'm quite happy with them actually, they're alright. The only bit I can't do is the painting of the actual cannon shells because they're so small. I'm going to throw some still pictures up of this bit as well. When you look at them on a photograph, they look quite, I don't know, they look alright, but they're tiny, so it's difficult to kind of comprehend. With the naked eye, they look completely different to they do on a photograph. But they're so small. A film of paint shows up really obviously, and the difficulty, you can't mask them or anything like that. So painting the bullet tips or the cannon shell tips is very difficult. So what I've done, I've used a Sharpie. I've just used a black Sharpie or a black permanent marker just to paint them black, because they're obviously not copper coloured, these are steel. But I'm quite happy with that, for what reasons I've mentioned at the beginning of the video. So they're just ball rounds, all black. That's what they look like, and that's, I'm gonna have to compromise on that. And that's how they're going to be. So yeah, it's interesting. It's been a bit of a challenge, and I've enjoyed doing this, because it's just one of these. I know it's probably over the top. They're basically replacing these. That's the kit one, and this is the ones I've made. I don't know, is it necessary? I don't know how you'd paint that any better, really. I don't know. But it's just one of those things I wanted to do just to see if I could do it. What would I do any different if I did it again? It would be easier to do, if you're going to make lots of them, the little jigs that I made at the beginning of the video and stuff, they'd be better made out of metal. I suppose if you had a watchmaker's lathe or a lathe that could deal with things as tiny as this, you could just machine them up anyway, so you wouldn't have to do this. But this Richard's Modelling Adventures is basically, I try and keep it within the realms of everybody doing this stuff. If you've got to spend thousands of pounds on equipment to do things, it gets a bit out of hand, doesn't it, really? So, you know, I have to compromise on some things, and I think that's a reasonable compromise. Without more machines and more tooling and stuff, I don't think I could make them any better than that. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed that, and catch you later.